Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Cordell Patterson, and this is my Theory of Extraordinary, a comparison, contrast, and theory of the realistic fiction strand that not even Einstein can ignore. This is my final project for English 12A, and I will be breaking down the characters, environments, and what those characters did, and the heroes of the story. Now, before we begin, we have a brief moment of definition. What is the definition of a hero? If you looked into the dictionary, you'd find many different meanings for the word hero, but we're going to take a quick look at these first three. 1. A man or woman of distinguished courage or ability, admired for his brave deeds and noble qualities. 2. A person who, in the opinion of others, has heroic qualities or has performed a heroic act and is regarded as a model or ideal. And 3. A submarine sandwich. We're not going to be taking much look at number 3. In fact, we're not going to be taking any at all. But we're mostly going to be taking a look at number 1. A man or woman of distinguished courage or ability, admired for his brave deeds and noble qualities. One thing that does confuse people about what a hero is when some people says a hero type, they don't necessarily mean that that person is by definition a hero. If you take a soldier in an army and he has better strength, speed, and mental capacity or mental capability, makes him a hero type. It just means that he's better than everyone else. While, yes, we're going to be taking a look at something like that, it's going to be more about the characteristics, moral qualities, and overall character of the characters in these books. Subjects of the equation. Our elements or subjects that we're going to be using for this comparison contrast are the books Slam, Stargirl, Looking for Alaska, and The Book Thief. Breaking it down to the elements. Slam. Now, our story Slam is based around the protagonist's name, Greg Harris. He has a very rough past, comes from a very broken home, doesn't try to fit in, but wants to be part of the crowd, extremely skilled in basketball, and lives in a ghetto slash urban environment. Now, as you can see, in conclusion, he is by definition a hero. Well, what makes him a hero? It's not necessarily the broken past or the doesn't try to fit in but wants to be part of the crowd. It's that his actions in the book makes him the, by definition, hero type. His amazing basketball skills allows him to be able to get into different environments where he is highly looked upon by other students and faculty of staff at his school. However, on the other hand, it also puts him in different positions with his friends, like, say, Ice, or different things that he shouldn't exactly be in. He has moral decisions, and he decides to choose some good and some bad, some that he will regret later, and some that he just know are just plain wrong. Now, though he may be a hero, he does have his own weaknesses. One of them being for his girlfriend, one for being, well, for girls in general. 3, his love for playing basketball. And that's one of the things that he does overcome because, well, he does end up learning how to practically share the ball with others. Breaking down to the elements, Stargirl Part 1. Now, our next character isn't the hero of the story. Leo Borlock. Relatively easy life, good family, desperately wants to fit in, loves to direct the school show Hot Seat, but isn't very driven for anything else, and just lives in a regular town. Now, the reason why that he is not the hero of the story is because the character in itself struggles to find interest. The way that I see it is that Leo is the protagonist of the story, but the story is all about the girl named Stargirl. She isn't very easy to pin down to one category because she never really is able to be pinned down. Which brings us to part 2. Absolutely carefree life. Loving family, doesn't care if she fits in, loves to watch and make random people's lives better, and lives in a regular town. These are the qualities of Stargirl. Now, the reason why that she is the hero of the story and not the protagonist is because, well, that's one of the things that the author decided to do. He decided to tell the story of Stargirl in this small event that he used another person to tell it with. Now, the reason why that she is the hero is because her qualities and moral choices are what makes us wonder why we make some of the choices we do today. Whether we decide to fit in the crowd, shun another person, or decide to accept them is one of the few things that I think that our society nowadays struggles with, because we always struggle with whether or not we're going to be rejected or we're going to let somebody in. Up next, breaking it down to the elements, Looking for Alaska, Part 1. Slightly depressing life, caring family, learns to fit in, quotes the last words of dead people, which I honestly do not understand why, and lives in a dorm on a college campus. Welcome to the life of Miles Halter. He is not exactly the most interesting person, other than the dead quote thing. However, he does become more interesting as life on campus goes on. He meets different people, like the Colonel and Takumi. However, when he meets up with a certain Alaska Young, his life does eventually begin to spice up a bit, whether it be sexual attention, pranks, or the booze and cigarettes. He does learn to become more of a unique person. Which brings us to Alaska Young. Looking for Alaska, Part 2. Lives a self-destructive life, has a very broken family, doesn't try to fit in, but fits in anyway, loves to read, smoke, drink, contemplate on life, and have sex, not always with her boyfriend. Now, the reason why that she is by definition, a hero is because of, again, her qualities. She may not necessarily be of the hero type, but she does bring Miles Halter to a place where he begins to contemplate his life a little bit more deeply than he originally decided on. Miles, or Pudge, Event comes to college looking for a grade perhaps, and hoping to become a different person. However, when he meets Alaska Young, he is exposed to the how you say enigma of the labyrinth. What is a labyrinth? Well, that's exactly one of the problems that they're faced with. What is the labyrinth? And how do you escape from it? The labyrinth is your everyday life. That's the best description that I can give. How do you escape from that regular everyday life so that you can become something extraordinary? Uh, Miles Halter decides that it's not that you need to be just take life lying on your back, but instead it's that you need to explore it. Originally, he thought that you just set up shop in one of the corners and live out the rest of your days, but eventually he decides that no, that's not the correct answer. With this, Alaska Young is the hero, and Miles Halter becomes a hero. Breaking it down to the elements, the book thief. Lisa Menninger. Pretty name. Constantly worrying, but lives a somewhat happy life. Loving family, inadvertently fits in with other children, loves to steal books, but she does love to read them just as much. And lives in a German town during World War II. Now, contrary to the other books in the Strand, this one is set predominantly in the past. The other ones are mostly set in the present or near present. The reason why Lisa Menninger is the hero of the story is because of her qualities and what she likes to, well, dig her feet into. The reason why I say that is because of the different people that she meets, including Rudy Snyder, the boy that loves to run. Lisa Menninger gets set up in a very particular situation with two people, Hans and Rosa Huberman. She is orphaned by her mother because of some of the things that she has had to take care of, and she eventually learns to love them as her own parents. Hans plays the accordion. Rosa swears at Hans for playing the accordion, but they both love Lisa and help. And Hans, who has a very troubling time with reading, teaches Lisa how to read and write. This is a very good book, and I would suggest it to anyone that I met. Now, with all of these being finished, I would like to add this note. Not all of these books are for people of the same reading level and or maturity. Slam is a book that I would suggest to a young boy around, I would say, maybe 12, 13 years of age. However, I would also have someone read it with them because there are some elements in it that are not necessarily good for a boy of that age to be thinking of. Up next, I would suggest Stargirl, which I would say 14 to 15. It's a very different book, but it's interesting nonetheless. After that, I would advise The Book Thief, which I would say 15 to 16 years of age. so that they can be able to start understanding some of the hardships of World War II and actually understand what's going on. Um, After that, I would suggest Looking for Alaska. And while, in my opinion, Looking for Alaska was a rather bland book, I would also say that it was for somewhat mature audiences because of some of the imagery and language used in it. But then again, I would also highly advise some warning about Stargirl because of some of the language that is in it as well. Sorry, not Stargirl. The Book Thief. Elements equals the makeup of characters. Here are our final questions. What makes our characters hero? And why? Well, not all of the characters were the protagonists, and not all of them were the heroes. It was a very difficult explanation to be able to come up with, but what makes them a hero is how interesting or different they are from everyone else. And the reason why I say this is because though it is an author's job to create interesting characters, it's also their job to create characters that are more interesting than others. And while some of them may be the protagonist, others may be a different character that the protagonist meets. Like, say, in uh, The Book Thief, the whole entire story is narrated by a man named by Death. And let's be honest, not many books are narrated by Death, and that makes him an interesting character. But he is not the hero of the story. It's his. It's the author's job to be able to create characters that are likable and can be understood with. And while some characters are easier to be able to understand with than others, it must be done either way. But in another term, it also requires that they make heroes, characters that they can understand, but yet can look up to or contemplate on, because they're not like the reader. What doesn't make a hero? Well, again, it's about the character's um, attributes and how unique they are and how different they are from everyone else. While I would say, in say maybe Alaska Young, Miles Halter, aka Pudge, is a very unique character, but in comparison to Alaska Young, he is ordinary. He's just bland. Does the protagonist always have to be the hero? Why? Again, going back to what I said, it's not always needed to be the protagonist to be the hero, but it is needed for them to be interesting enough to be able to them to be the protagonist and to be able to tell the story through their eyes. And lastly, does a story always have to hero? Sorry. Does a story always have to have a hero? And why? This is where it all comes down to. A story doesn't necessarily have to have a hero, but it does need a protagonist. The problem is that without a hero, a story would always be bland. It would always be one-sided. It would always be a person's thought process about themselves rather than just everyone else. A hero is always needed, but it's not always guaranteed that we will always have one in the story. It it helps make it interesting, yes, but it can go on without it. However, if you don't have a hero, it would make things very, very, very bland. Anyway, that is my conclusion for my final project in English 12A. Have a wonderful day, and here are the resources that I used to make this video. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.